Is this so good? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry Bees. So recently here on the channel, I've been trying to focus on new releases to react to, just try to capitalize on a lot of the hype that some of these new releases have. And I think the hype was met with Man's Best Friend by Sabrina Carpenter. That was the last big one that we reacted to. But I would say that today's album is just as anticipated, as we have the new 21 Pilots release, Breach. Now, I apologize to any of the hardcore 21 Pilots fans in the chat or in the YouTube comments. I know that there is a certain, perhaps chronological order that these albums are meant to be listened to in to get maybe the lore, which I'm sure you all will explain to me, and I'm all for it. So please do tell me anything that I'm not really grappling. So apologies if I'm not gathering everything there is to gather. But when I decided that we're going to focus on some new releases and react to those, I was very excited to see 21 Pilots, and I knew we just had to get into this one. Yeah, so somebody asking here, do I even like 21 Pilots? I would say that I like 21 Pilots. If you watched my last video, I ranked the top 10 favorite albums that I've reacted to here on the channel. Blurryface made that list, and I knew I was probably going to like it. Really vibing with a lot of the singles, and I still think that Trench might be a better album. It's a little bit more cohesive, but that list wasn't about what the best, objectively best album was. It was more so like, how does each album kind of vibe with me personally? And I just had a little bit more history with the songs off of Blurryface, and so that's what kind of made it for me. But before we get into it, I just want to remind you all to please let me know your thoughts on my thoughts. I'm pretty opinionated, and that's never gonna stop. So maybe you put me in check a couple times. Let me know down in the comments below. If you ever want to see us go live, make sure you click one of the links down in the description. And if you want to catch any of these reactions before they come out on YouTube, uncut, go ahead and check out my Patreon, where you can get exactly that for just $1. So this is Breach. I don't have a ton of context for it other than it's the new 21 Pilots album. I maybe have perused, some reviews of it, just kind of just Google 21 Pilots Breach and seeing the reviews coming on. It seems that this is fair to Midland. Obviously, I think the 21 Pilots fans are going to eat it up. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a release that, as a consensus, they're all like, oh, this ain't it. Maybe I'm wrong. Is there a 21 Pilots album that, the fans really don't like or anything? Tell me which one it is. But yeah, this is it. It's, wow, a little bit shorter than I would have thought. Have the other 21 Pilots albums been this, I guess, brief? 47 minutes isn't nothing to snooze at, but sometimes we react to albums that are quite a bit longer than that. But nevertheless, somebody in the chat says that the lore is kind of wrapped up in the first track here, so I guess we'll see what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, from 2025, this is Breach by 21 Pilots. 13 songs, 47 minutes, 28 seconds. First song, City Walls.
Take your right, throw a left. Pair up with me, I'ma take you right to the chest. Warpath etched in the surface. Lines under yellow tape, they're moving quiet like a serpentine in a formation. Buddy, that's my team, pretty impatient. Now they're waiting on this falling, blending by the sun. The furthest we've reached, now move it up, it's a breach. I wonder where you are. Entertain my
Okay. This is the part of the video where I gotta be completely honest with you guys. I wasn't catching the lyrics because I was so focused on the instrumentation. It was great. You never know what you're getting into with 21 Pilots while still knowing exactly what you're getting into. And what I mean by that is like they've proven that they can go so many different ways and so many different ways in one track. But here, it really is just a really straightforward, up until a point, more of a straightforward alt rock song. And I was just liking the relatively like bare bones kind of layering here. But the instrumentation was fantastic. It's just something to kind of push me through a nice rhythmy kind of alt rock song. You know, it's just a nice alt rock song, but it's how it moves through to the end of the track that I really enjoyed. So probably about like the 3 minute, at about the 3 minute mark, we get into like the breakdown, and they bring us low just to bring us back up. And I really like that kind of progression as an opening song. And I think that's somebody said it in chat, like it felt very devastating, especially like when it came back in. This line about, trying to keep the top of his head glued in, this is somebody who's either lost or just very confused, not really knowing where to go next. That's what I caught from it. I'm probably missing so much more here, but was just really focused in on the instrumentation that was going on. And I know that like they're plopping the vocals on top of everything, which is like so much music, and especially pop music, just the vocals go on top of everything. That's the most important part of really the production. But I like the way that Tyler's voice is produced and like mixed and layered. So, we're getting these moments where, there's multi-track layering going on where, you're hearing his vocal track on top of everything. And then there's another vocal track placed on top of there, but there's like a filter on it, and I don't know exactly what it is. Like this video, if you want me to actually learn about music production, maybe I make a video on it. I don't know. I've been thinking about that recently. It's been a while since we've listened to 21 Pilots, and after hearing this song, I think I can say that that's maybe not something that I've noticed before, how they mix the vocals and how they produce the vocals. But I do think that is like a signature element to their sound. Rawfear.
Rawfear moves me, sounds of empty Uzis. Life is just forever nipping hills, never slowing down. Rawfear moves me, sounds of empty Uzis. Just forever gripping fields, never slowing down. Never slowing down, 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 never slowing down.
Never slowing down as it gets faster. I see what you're doing.
For lesson that is not past or fair.
Why was that so catchy? I want to listen to that again.
Rawfear moves me, sounds of empty Uzis. Life is just forever nipping hills, never slowing down.
And they use this thing here, with the song being a little bit shorter than the first song. We kind of got the appropriate timing for the bridge, but it's the same kind of deal where they're really bringing us down just to bring us back up. And that's cool, right? It lasted a little bit longer in that first song, which I thought was very appropriate. And it works here too, just because it's so damn catchy. Now, if every song's going to be like this, I don't know. That might get a little old. But man, was this one fun. And it's something I can really appreciate. You might not think this, but this is very ska coded. All right. Sounds pretty happy, but it's about fear of death and dying. Sounds happy, but actually isn't. Try to microdose to immunity. So I know a lot of the time, if you microdose psychedelics, for example, that you're doing that to hopefully put you in a better headspace. So maybe that's how this line is meant to be interpreted here. Try to microdose to immunity, but you'll never ever get it. That might be something where, you microdose in hopes to, maybe cure like a depressive episode or something like that. It's the death and despair is still kind of all around you all the time, and there's really no getting around it, folks. 21 Pilots is ska confirmed. Ride is way more reggae than anything, but we wouldn't have reggae without ska. Come on now. And I'm playing this off of Spotify, but I made a big mistake in the last 21 Pilots video. Really just for Blurry Face. When I was really looking at all the different numbers of plays for each song, oh, why isn't this one more popular? This one's fantastic. I won't do that with here. I will not do that with this one, but I want to put on for the record that this should have been a number one song. I don't know. I was betting before the album came out that Rawfear would be one of my favorites, and I was right. Wait, did you just seeing the track listing and you going, I'm gonna like that one. All right, we're moving on here. Drum show.
Drum show. He's putting on a drum show. Even now, he'll take the longer way home. Even now, he'll never ever show. He'd rather fit. I want to change. I've been this way. I want to
Why is this so good? I was excited to listen to the new 21 Pilots album. I've liked everything I've heard since. If we're talking about the albums, right? It's I like that one. So far, this is really hitting me in a way that the other albums haven't. Not to say that it's any better, but a little bit more aggressive out the gate, especially with this one. Between Blurry Face and Trench, I don't know if we've gotten so close to just a normal kind of punk song. Now, of course, 21 Pilots can't just go into one genre and make like a genre song. It has to be a punk rock influenced 21 Pilot song. They have to put their own spin on it, and they do. They break it down a little bit. They add all of their standard electronic elements. I get that. But between the scream here, I want to change, and then just the bordering on blast beats, and I might even get pretty close to just calling them out straight up as blast beats from Josh here. I did not know this, but the terminology for whenever Josh sings are jokals instead of vocals. So far, way more rock feeling than their other two albums have been as a whole. Again, we just started this thing, so maybe the sound of the album will evolve over time. And it's not to say that I can't hear that rock influence. I say that, Blurry Face is a, modern alt rock classic. In that top 10 video that I made when I was talking about Blurry Face, and alternative rock is kind of like a catch-all for it's rock based, but you're putting more stuff into it. You're pulling influences from more places. You might make it a little weird. It's really coming through as just some good old fashioned rock and roll here, which I wasn't expecting. I think if you have an ear for 21 Pilots, you want to hear them go all these different crazy places. And it's a little bit more reserved, but only in where they're pulling it from, I guess. It's not reserved in feeling, because I'm really getting this angst that's coming through these sounds, especially on this song. But let's move on. Garbage.
I feel like garbage. I feel like my systems are operating I grew quieter. Maybe this is you. Maybe you don't fix and you like. I feel like garbage. I feel like garbage. I give up on me. No, please.
Britpop. This was a 21 Pilots Britpop song. What? I mean, so far I have a lot of conflicting feelings at this point, because the opening song I just felt like a standard alt rock song. Okay, cool. Then we get into some punk business, a little bit more aggressive. And then here, like, I'm getting like a, Verve. Somebody said Coldplay here. Even like New Radicals, so like this like late 90s, early 2000s pop rock kind of sound that's like giving Britpop. The piano had a lot to do with that. Like, let's be real here. And it's all very like it's weird, because I want to say that this is like the most accessible it's been so far. 21 Pilots isn't the most, I mean, let's be real. It isn't the most thought-provoking in terms of themes or in terms of composition, in terms of instrumentation. But I think, like, if you're getting into trench, if you're down in the trenches, as it were, right? You might have to be a fan. You might have to have an appreciation for the band themselves for it to really vibe with you and for you to really get the most out of it. And whereas with Blurry Face, I think the hits on that album speak for themselves. And with how big those hits were, I mean, those were just pop classics. A lot of those songs, these are more accessible, but now I'm kind of thinking, like, are they not reaching high enough? Are they reaching too low? But then I think to myself, well, do I just want to seem like a cool kid in that way? Do I want to listen to something a little bit more thought-provoking just because it's thought-provoking and not enjoy my time listening to nice-sounding things, and this is all sounding quite nice? Does any of that make any sense? I know I talk a lot of shit, and if you can decipher that, God bless. God bless. Well, I mean, I feel like garbage. There's just really not a ton else to say past that. And who knows if there's breadcrumbs that I'm not eating or something like that. Late stage 21 Pilots is not anticipating their highest of creative highs and appreciating where they show their musical layers. I mean, there's to a point where you've been doing it for long enough. You've been at this for long enough, and you just know how to make a catchy little tune while still sounding like 21 Pilots. I think to be 21 Pilots, outside of, like House of Gold or something like that, you're just like something like incredibly early before they really established that sound. I'm still getting it. I'm still getting those electronic elements. They're still, the breakdown in this one wasn't as, moving or as apparent as they have been in other songs or even other songs on this album. But still, I listen to this and I'm like, yeah, pros made this. But every single song has been catchy as hell. Every single one. So is the next one going to be even catchier? I don't know. What's the next one? The Contract. 21 Pilot. Linkin Park.
I check the doors, check the windows, and pull the blinds. I check the clock, wondering what he'll play. I used to keep items statements, that's crazy. How'd you know that I keep myself up? That's maybe outside, and I'm just trying to stay quiet. Item statements, that's crazy. How'd you know that I keep myself up? That's maybe how you know that I. How'd you know that I'll keep myself up? That's maybe how you know that
right. So what is this? 5 songs in now? Not to, every song has been a 21 Pilots song to me so far. I don't want to make it seem like I'm saying like they're just pulling from too many inspirations and it's way too derivative. That they're not that kind of band. It's just one of those. So far, it's been, a line of songs where I'm picking out different influences, and it's still interesting to see how they handle it. But this one's coming at me with a little bit more of their zhuzh, a little bit more of that 21 Pilots vibe that you can't get anywhere else. Get it while it's hot, kids, because this is what it is. This is your typical 21 Pilots here. Let Josh cook on the set. Don't be afraid to get a little electrified here. And a lot of, I don't know if it was vocoding necessarily, but obviously some weird, fun little filters on the vocals there. Obviously, Necromancer's right here, so I don't know how much into the lore this one is, or if anybody can kind of give me a TLDR on where we are with all of that, because I would like to know. I've been enjoying everything so far, but this was a much needed change of pace. Really, that's just my expectations. Expectations. I'm looking for a certain pacing with 21 Pilots albums, and so far it was a little bit more straightforward for me to begin. But here, I think they're bringing it back into their wheelhouse quite well. Downstairs.
And after your own heart, I might doubt the process like I doubted the start. So I'm begging, no. Downstairs, I feel better in the cellar down there. It's some shelter from the weather I wear. All of my heart on my sleeve. I'll take what I believe and I'm hiding it downstairs. I feel bad, so I'm begging, no mercy. I'm begging. Downstairs, I feel better in the cellar down there. It's some shelter from the weather I wear. Have I become dirty and wretched one? Am I unholy? It's some shelter from the weather I wear. All of my heart on my sleeve. I'll take what I believe and I'm hiding it downstairs. I feel better in the cellar down there. It's some shelter from
What the
weather
fuck?
I wear. All of my heart on my sleeve. After and I'm hiding and I'm hiding. Ask me so. 'Cause I want to be the one after your own heart. And I might doubt the process like I doubt the start.
This is 21 Pilots. Man, this one was fantastic. Oh, no. Let me see. So I related to this one just because I had a basement room. It wasn't a cellar. It wasn't locked up, tied to the radiator or something like that. No, like I wanted my own bedroom, so I basically helped put a wall up in the basement so I could have my own bedroom. I don't know this, I listening to this song, kind of thinking about my own experiences when I was like, oh, I have my own room now. I feel better. It was my cellar, okay, even though it was right underneath the kitchen. And anytime anybody got up in the middle of the night to have a snack, I had to hear it. But that's besides the point. So this could mean something else entirely lyrically, but as I'm reacting to it, I don't have a ton of time for these thoughts to sit with me because I'm reacting to it in real time. You are seeing me for the first time listening to these songs. So I might even have more thoughts on it as time goes on, or you might even have a more literal interpretation for what the artist says it was about. But I'm just thinking about all the fun times I had in my little basement room when I was finally alone. I mean, it's a longer song, 5.5 minutes, and that breakdown was nuts because usually you're thinking key changes with the instruments, but the key changed with the vocals instead. And I can't even think, that's probably happened before. I've probably heard that before, but no, like, apparent example comes to mind of where else I've heard that before. Very interesting, caught me very off guard, and I like when that shit happens, right? This is new to me. This is actually something I can say like, oh, I haven't really heard this done in that way before. And leave it to 21 Pilots. I don't know, outside of Blurry Face, how much they've really, pushed the boundaries of maybe the alternative genre. But I mean, I think the effects of that album are still felt today, and they're just still working in that headspace so well. And there's so many emotions here, from when he's screaming the yeahs to, when they break it down and they build it back up. This is the 21 Pilots you want to hear. I thought this song was extremely well done. And I guess that's kind of an odyssey for them, at 5 minutes. I can't really think of much longer songs. It's like I don't know. Do they have their Jesus of Suburbia? You know what I mean? Like a 9-minute song.
Beeps and tones they make. The only advice I take, the inside jokes are landing. Now I'm waiting for the changes. I wasn't looking for love this year, but my robot told me that I shouldn't fear. When I met you, stay a while. The lines on the floor. How did you find me?
What the fuck?
I wasn't looking for love this year, but my robot voices would reassure me. When I met you, I found you safe and warm, and the road.
Okay, so this probably wasn't intentional, but as the album started, as you may or may not recall, I'd be more worried if you wouldn't recall it. How much are you listening to me, really? I'm saying how it's very apparent, they're wearing their influences on their sleeves, right? They're, as he says, he's wearing his heart on his sleeve, so maybe he's really pulling from all these genres or all these sounds that he really likes that are representative of how he's feeling or just how he kind of wants to handle his art. But more than anything, 21 Pilots, I don't find them to be derivative in the same ways that, I usually say for maybe Olivia Rodrigo or Sabrina Carpenter. I don't necessarily hold that against them. They're, wearing their influences on their sleeves. They're paying ode to these sounds, these other artists, and introducing that sound to a new audience. I get that. 21 Pilots, you can trust them, as they've shown to do in this album so far, to put a little bit more on top, to put a little bit more of that 21 Pilots flavor on top of everything. Then we get into a couple songs that are just straight up 21 Pilots songs. The production is exactly the way you want it. It's so filling in your ears, and the same is true for this track. However, they were about to loop me back into saying like, okay, this is a little bit more derivative here, because it starts out, I'm like, is this like the Postal Service? This is giving Death Cab for Cutie, and it's like early 2000s kind of indie rock, and then they like go into that like guitar part before the hook, and it's like Strokes kind of stuff, but at no point does it not sound like 21 Pilots. Outside of the intro. The intro, it was like, okay, it's like they had me in the first half. We move on here. Center Mass.
In the middle seat, right this way. Chivalry. tighter space than I used to know. That part they aim.
No.
I run to you. They aim for that part they aim.
I can't handle these boys. As a fellow Ohioan, to Tyler and Josh here, right? I understand we're built different. A lot of other states, a lot of other countries couldn't. They wouldn't, right? This was a ballsy song. This was a ballsy song. I mean, you start with this like jazz beat, really. Josh is going to be able to handle that just fine. And I was really inviting a, jazzy, soulful kind of track from them. It would have been a great way to pace things along. Not necessarily a sound I'm used to hearing from them all of the time. And, they've, at the start of the album, they're starting to really, they're really starting to defy my expectations at the start of every song. And they kind of did that at the top of the album. They made some songs that were a little bit more straightforward. But here at this point in the album, these last two songs, where it's starting one place and it ends up in left field. It ends up somewhere so far removed from where we started. So we get this jazz beat and, Josh is handling that on percussion quite well. And then we get back into this like fast-paced punk blast beats thing. And Tyler's screaming and I'm scared. And it's this genre blending that they do so well that is quintessential 21 Pilots. So what blends it all together and makes it their own is how they incorporate all the electronic elements into things. 21 Pilots should cover a Fish song or like a Goose song, a Grateful Dead song, a Dave Matthews song, just like any of these other jam bands, right? And like make like a jam band song and then have it end like this song ends. Where, in under 3 minutes, they take you somewhere so much more aggressive than how it started. To start on jazz and end with punk is quite brave. Cottonwood.
Can't believe you're gone for good. Someone chopped you down. Thought you'd just fall in the woods, but she heard that sound. No, don't. I've been catching my reflection already looking. Most are blown down in a storm, but the wind was tame. You condemn you. I look back in time through a telescope. I've been catching my reflect. You tore me up. I look back in time through a telescope.
In terms of pacing, we really needed one of these, man. We really needed one of these to kind of just breathe for a second. So we got Mozart here in the chat saying that song is about his grandfather with glimpses of Tyler's younger self. Yeah, I was getting the sense of maybe accepting the person you used to be, or at the very least being introspective on the past, and really delving into past experiences or something like that, and how that might leave a lasting impact on you. But obviously there, it makes it a little bit more personal to Tyler. I mean, he wrote the goddamn song. I hope it's personal. But after, kind of blowing my mind, so to speak, on some of the other tracks, and they've been quite high energy, we really needed one to bring us back down for a little while. This is where this is great. And like looking at the pacing of I really do feel this could have been a 10 song. Now that we're halfway through the album, I have myself thinking about how much City Walls, Rawfear, Drum Show, and Garbage really fit in. I'm already thinking about additional listens to this album to really, just because like I feel like how it started is not necessarily how it's going. Has anybody else felt the same way? Do you feel the same way on that? Maybe when the album's all said and done, I'll have a come to Jesus moment where I, eat my own words. I haven't done that in a while. Anyway, we move on. One Way.
I wanted to fly, but they say your system's coming in. The chances are high. It's not been interesting in a while. I wanted to fly, but they say your system's coming in. Me and my scene just ain't gelling. Someone next to me keeps yelling. But they say your system's coming in.
Come on.
Chances are high.
Stop beating around the bush. Drop it. Drop it, you coward.
Hey, it's Josh. Call me back. I'm not opposed to One Way going into Days Lie Dormant, but it does feel like quite a vibe change. And
All right, so somebody in chat told me that this song was going to transition, and that's actually like, goddamn, I got to talk about it. That's what we do here on the channel. I stop, I pause. We will roll it back a little bit to listen to the next track, but that's actually like such a smart way of doing it. That's really pulling the covers back. Doesn't leave a ton to interpretation there, but sometimes that's fine. I think with 21 Pilots, you can say maybe too much left to interpretation, given maybe, some of the lore, maybe you gotta be into it to know what's going on. But beyond that, I'm gonna say something that is probably going to not sound great maybe once I listen to this album again. But again, this is my first reaction, my first response to this. This album has had some of the catchiest hooks and just choruses and maybe like one-liners that we've seen in a 21 Pilots record. I know this is only the third one that I've listened to here on the channel. Maybe we can get into that. But even as we've had a lot of these switch-ups between genres and, these pretty dense compositions like Let's Be Real, this song was just a riot. It's just straightforward fun. And coming out of Cottonwood, Cottonwood was a nice change of pace. It brought us back down, allowed us to kind of collect our thoughts a little bit more. Coming from, robot voices in center mass, and even downstairs really, which were very high energy, and even at some points quite chaotic. And so Cottonwood being pretty straightforward, and One Way being straightforward, but lifting us back up a little bit. Apparently it's going to be quite the vibe change, so we'll listen back a little bit and we'll go right into Days Lie Dormant.
I just can't afford it to waste time in a city when no one knows your name. My days lie dormant, 'cause I just can't afford it. So much warmer there, and I should try Topo Chico and get some more sun. But yeah, say with your face something that's all together. My days lie dormant, 'cause I just can't afford it. I've got my days lie dormant, frozen and distorted, robbed of my momentum and suspended in the air.
Oh, love the harmony there to end the song. You know what? Two very fun tracks back to back. Josh is right. It is quite the vibe change. One's a little, groovy, smooth little ass shaker. And then this one's like just like some fun, punky, fun indie punk. That's what I'd say. Outside of, the piano breakdown, just to bring us back up right into the main chorus of it. I know I haven't talked a lot about the lyrics in this reaction, but I honestly think 21 Pilots is one of those bands where you can go ahead and talk about how the composition's progressing over time and isolating maybe some of the instrumentation or the vocals. And that could be just enough to talk about there. At least that's what this album has been given to me. I am so much more with the sounds of this album on the whole than I think I have with the other two that we've reacted. But I really, really appreciating a lot of what they're giving here in this album. I mean, what's been catchy has been catchy and so much fun to listen to. But I think on the whole so far, they're not selling themselves short to any degree. They're still very much the same band, and they're putting as much detail and care into everything that they do. So it's not an outlier in that sense. I don't know. It's just so sweet and so dear to me. My days lie dormant. It's feeling less important to waste my time inside a place you're not. Right. I mean, that's just it. And I think if you got somebody special in your life, that's just so true. And, don't wax poetic about it. Just give it to me straight. Like, if you're not here, I am wasting my fucking time. Now, don't love bomb somebody, don't be a fucking creep. Well, other than that, but we move on. Tally.
I wanted to progress things. I wanted my soul set free. Lost it all at a discount. You and I both know this how the story goes. We've seen it several times. In my mind, I see your heart break every time. Still now, you believe in me somehow.
All right, so I've already eaten my own words, and this is kind of long overdue to kind of admit that. I said at the beginning of this reaction that perhaps that they're showing a little bit of restraint, with those first few songs, and that's potentially kind of interesting to see from them. But at this point, we got one song left. They were not afraid at all to go balls to the wall on the instrumentation and composition with every single one of these songs. This is as high energy as I can remember this band being. And it's just been such a fun ride. They've given us the slow, they gave us Cottonwood when we needed it. And boy, did we need it. And I was happy to see that on the middle of the album. Cool. Just let us relax and then get us there. I don't need to tell you how quickly Josh was drumming on this track, and the over, is it like too much synth? I don't know, but you get so much synth in this track as well as a lot of other tracks. It just made it so damn fun. Honestly, we can talk about all the screaming on this album. We were starving, and that adds to just how high energy it's been. I don't really remember Blurry Face having exceptionally low points, but I as far as high energy goes, this one's got to take the fucking cake in terms of just overall sound. I mean, it's just a riot. Intentions.
Starting it all over fail most every day, in every way. Did you learn a thing? Intentions will set you free. Just try to be.
Brought us back down for the last track, which is fitting. You know, that's just like one of the easiest ways to end an album. But with this album particularly, because it was so high energy, that I think that's really a way to just make sure that the listener knows, okay, now we're done. We've kind of gone over everything we needed to get over. But, you know, without saying the things that we've said, kind of love this line. You will fail most every day and every way. Did you learn a thing? You gotta fail. You gotta fail just a billion times for you to learn a single thing. Now, how that relates to intentions? You know, they say, you could do things with the best of intentions, but no good deed goes unpunished. You know, so I think it might be weird kind of balancing those two ideas there. Maybe that's why you're starting it all over again, you know? But maybe this has something to do with the lore again. So I know Trench kind of ended in a less than savory way. And so maybe this is this. Hey, how about you as a happy ending for once? 21 Pilots. Give us a happy ending. Literally for once. Clancy ate Nico and became a Niner? Nico and the Niners. What are my thoughts on Breach, the new 21 Pilots album? I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. It is just so weird because the first few tracks aren't, I think they're still high energy, but they're not that typical, very chaotic 21 Pilots production and composition that we are used to hearing, or at least that I'm used to hearing, or maybe that I get the most out of. Again, this is my reaction. You may have had an entirely different outlook on how the songs in this album were placed and how it was paced. Overall, I thought the album was paced exceptionally well, given that it was so high energy. Dare I say it was over the top. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. Elite album, in my opinion. So it's weird to kind of place this because I know I am kind of piecemealing their discography here, just kind of picking and choosing which albums to react to, but I want to focus on new releases, and this one had just come out. I miss all of you 21 Pilots fans. You 21 Pilots fans are one of the, crazy fan bases that I look up to, coming from somebody who kind of belongs to a few crazy fan bases, Tool being maybe like the big one. I really do appreciate that just infatuation with maybe one given album, or in their case, this narrative that spans their discography. And again, a lot of that was missed on me, but from a production point, I'm still getting everything I know and love about 21 Pilots. The high impact moments of this album where it's just filling my ears with everything that they want to show us. I really like that. I can see how, the 21 Pilots haters are like, oh, it's all too much and just so over the top that I just can't get down with it. I need artists to take themselves more seriously because I take myself too seriously, which I'm going to pivot into something that I should not have done. Here on the channel, I don't give a shit about ratings or even sometimes I'll give user forums a little bit more stock because I give a shit about what the normal John and Jane Q taxpayer have to say, other than somebody who just writes for an outlet or something like that when it comes to reviews for music. And I looked up the Pitchfork review for this album. They gave it a 6.2. The duo's 8th LP is a chaotic, goofy, maximalist pop rock record. I would agree with that no one else could make. I agree. Mostly because no one else would consider it. And it's like, I can almost imagine the person that wrote that adding that just, smelling their farts afterward. Like, go piss up a fucking rope. I would say, and my argument to that is, there is no fucking nuance anymore. There is increasingly less and less originality. At least it's getting harder to find within like the zeitgeist, that something that's on top of the culture that everybody can maybe relate to, or like all at once see it as something that's new and fresh, or at least different, right? It's different from this band or that artist, or different from this last trend. Now, 21 Pilots is not a new group, but at the same time, nobody else does it like them. Now, and you could say I still don't like what they do, and that's fine. But like, this line, mostly because no one else would consider it. I think you need to appreciate that and celebrate that a little bit more in today's day and age. That's just me. But key tracks for me here. I mean, Drum Show was fantastic. Downstairs, I related a lot to that one. That was like quite the epic. Just like robot voices, center mass, tally, just these balls to the wall, high energy tracks that, if you miss Josh Dunn and you worry about Josh Dunn, don't worry. He's fine. He's going to be fine. I'd like to see a little bit more, maybe like odder time signatures or something like that. But it's the catchiness that they operate under quite well. And there were moments in this album and like some of the choruses that were just so unbelievably catchy. Not necessarily in the same way that like Ride or Stressed Out were, catchy. And I'm just calling back to, some of their bigger songs, right? But catching up that it's just a good listening experience. And I think because I could say that the pop records that we listen to, I'm not going to hound you for not being very thought-provoking as long as it's a fun record. But you get a fun record on top of interesting composition, on top of layering. And if it's too much for you, then it's too much for you. And I think that's really the only argument that I'll kind of take about like not really jiving with them. Like center mass for Josh is playing this jazz beat, on top of this piano, and Tyler's doing his rapping. And I was gonna say it was giving me like some loose Kendrick Lamar shit, right? And some of the jazzier things that Kendrick Lamar has rapped on top of. And then we get right back into this punk thing, and it keeps you on your toes. That's, for me, you're taking me somewhere with that. No one else would consider it. Well, I'm glad it's you guys that are doing it. And I just came from a music festival, and I think, yes, they are expensive, but I think you get a great value of seeing a ton of your favorite artists in the span of like 4 days or something like that. And other than that, it always reinvigorates this love for music that I have, and why I chose to make a YouTube channel that's music centered. And after hearing this, knowing that it's very common for bands to release an album and then go out on a tour supporting that album. I've never seen 21 Pilots live. I've been invited to go see them before, and I've never pulled the trigger. And I think it's finally time that I need to get around to seeing 21 Pilots live and just experience it for myself. I mean, I still think that they're just incredibly talented. Maybe the themes in this record didn't hit me as much as they did Trench, or maybe some of the individual themes that we saw in Blurry Face or something like that. But I mean, instrumentally, composition, production, this one has it all. I think this is as good as any other 21 Pilots album out there. It's been a long time since I've listened to Vessel, so now I have 4 under my belt. Maybe I revisit Vessel here on the channel. Let me know if you want me to do that. I've thought about that before, just maybe doing reviews of albums that I'm already familiar with, to maybe see if I have the same opinions, looking at it in a more analytical light. So that was my reaction to the new 21 Pilots record, Breach. Let me know your thoughts on my thoughts down in the comments below. And if you want me to keep an eye out for another new release that's coming out, or just an album from one of your favorite bands that you want me to react to here on the channel, go ahead and let me know that in the comments as well. If you ever want to check us out live, make sure you click one of the links down in the description. And if you never want to miss any of my videos before they come out on YouTube, go ahead and check out my Patreon. You get exactly that for $1 and some other types of content that I'm working on at the moment. But with all that said, I've been Jerry Bees. You've been awesome. Take it easy.
Diggity dog. Breaking. Diggity dog. Breaking.